for this clinic tonight. Been waiting to do these kind of clinics for a long time. I'm glad it's back. We're really excited to be able to do these things. This is a very unique situation here because we have a gentleman that came all the way from Brazil just to be in the United States to do this teaching. He's absolutely phenomenal, amazing player. I'm sure you've all heard of his name, Mr. Ramon Montagner. And we have one of our amazing faculty members, Mr. Alex Cohen. They both put out a brand new book. It's for sale. Please check it out. I'm not going to hold up the show anymore. I'm going to bring up to the stage Mr. Alex Cohen, Mr. Ramon Montagner. Please give them a big round of applause. Thank you. Thanks, bro.
Thank you very much. So right now, I realized that the last time I did a clinic here, I forgot to bring the De La Cluse book of snare pieces, and this time I lost it somewhere in Massachusetts. So what I'm going to do is, I remember roughly the first bar of this solo. It's number 1, A2 number 1. So let me try an improv based off of it in the feet. See what happens. This could fall apart too, but let's see. Today, I'd like to talk about double bass technique and my approach to it, especially because I feel that this applies to a lot of things that I work on and that also happen with the drum set. This is regarding like a lot of the foot ostinatos, etc. This comes from double bass technique and kind of getting your feet to where your hands are. Therefore, you can swap patterns between limbs. Great to see these two gentlemen here. So you can swap patterns between limbs. A big part of it for me came from working on an exercise that I got from Drum Technique Academy. And what that was, you plant your feet on the floor, you plant your ball of your foot on the floor, and drop your calves like that. So what that does is it works the calf muscle, which then engages the ankle technique. So that's ankle. Now, that swivel motion, I actually didn't really develop consciously. It just kind of happened because I was watching people online who are much faster than I am. They were using it, and so I thought maybe it would help at faster tempos. But the idea being that that motion was greatly helped build up the muscle systems to work on that ankle technique. Now, the next exercise came from when I was a kid, and my first drum teacher was actually at the original collective. His name was Fred Klatz, and he showed me an exercise to do in class that got me kicked out of class several times, but you know what? I don't care. So what it was, once again, ball of the foot hits the floor, slide the foot up. Ball of the foot hits the floor, slide it up. So it's like that sliding motion, like this. Now do it in both feet together. You do this anywhere. You can do it on the subway because people have seen way weirder things on the subway than someone doing this. Now, when we put that to the pedals, it's a similar motion to the Bonham slide technique. Slide the pedal forward. On the pedals, slide your feet forward on the pedals. The thing that I didn't like particularly about this technique was that I couldn't really get accents that evenly, and one of the other issues was that I found the first note was very heavy, was very loud, and the second would often be much softer. So what I did was I took a cue from that ankle technique, and what I did, I came up with a double technique that was go down, ankle drop, go down, heel drop, go down, heel drop, go down, heel drop, go down, heel drop. So it accented the second note of the double. So you could play very, very fast for a long period of time because you're exercising the calf as well as the motion of the slide technique. So I found that that was more in the lower shin, and then we incorporated the calf. Now, what I also discovered was that after working on these techniques for quite some time, you could get dynamics by adjusting where your foot was on the pedal. So a lot of the rudiments and classical pieces that I worked on in the feet came from trying to find different places on the pedal that I could activate the ankle technique versus the double technique, and so orchestrate, let's say, paradiddles, but accent, let's say, the first note of the paradiddle. So you would have that clean stroke of a paradiddle in the feet with the first note accented. Now, again, this applied to several different rudiments. So usually the ones that I worked through were various combinations of singles and doubles at first. There was one called the Dr. Ryan that I particularly liked. It was right, left, right, left, right, right, left, left. So that was, I thought, was a good one for symmetry. Triple paradiddle, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left. So that's another one I thought was good. The paradiddle diddle, good old trusty. We do it in our hands, we do it in our feet. Right, left, right, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, left. Now also practice these at different dynamics. So paradiddle diddle softly. Loud. So, and so on and so forth. Same with double strokes. Faster. So that was tremendously helpful in the sense that I worked on a lot of the same exercises I do with my hands with my feet to get that kind of control and just like fluidity between the rudiments. Now, what that later led me into, we're using threes in the feet to orchestrate flam rudiments. So flam taps, pataflaulas, et cetera. So the way I did threes, it was a continuation of the double stroke technique. So you foot up, down slide, heel, and then a heel downstroke to pick it up off the floor. So it basically looks like that. Almost like a molar technique if you're doing a rebound stroke like that, basically doing that in the foot. So pretty much, yeah. Then those were tremendously helpful in getting that. So I can now then play combinations of the rudiments being and get a lot more control with my feet. Now, the way this applies to the drum set is, let's say we want to put that on a hi-hat pedal, okay? So we're going to do flam taps in the feet. We're going to take that same technique. We can put it on a hi-hat. Now, and there you have it. So that was, again, a good way for adjusting my feet. However, there are many different combinations of limbs you can do. So you don't want to just work your hands and feet. You don't want to just go, well, you should do hands, then solo with the feet. So flam taps hands. And therefore you solo in the feet. Then you work on, we're going to do flam taps on the left side. Solo against that. So therefore you have this kind of continuous cycle you can do with. So therefore, you have all the limb combinations that way. Now, one of the ways that I sort of treated it too was more or less the equivalent of comping, especially after studying a lot of guys like Max Roach, Philly Joe Jones, Art Blakey, the idea of sort of establishing a motif, but this time you would then switch limbs into that motif. So let's say our motif in the hands is slam tap. We can solo in the feet. Five, slam five. All right. Now we're in Swiss triplets. The hands will solo. So we'll switch to a paradiddle in the hands. We'll switch to a three in the left side and so on and so forth. So you potentially infinite combinations between the limbs. Now, a couple ostinatos that I played in that solo. One of them I played a little too fast. So probably both I played a little too fast, but oh well. One of them is, I was really fascinated by a phrase done by our friend, Ramon and my dear friend, the great Yoni Madar, who I'm sure most of you are familiar with. If you were not, this is the name you should look up. So Yoni had a phrase that was a 6 against 5, and I adapted it as he would do it in the hands. I did it in the left side and then soloed in the right against it. So you'd have. Then you solo in your right side against what is essentially a 30-beat ostinato in your left. The next one was based off of something shown to me by a guy named Pete Drummond from Australia. He's Virgil Donati's top call sub. That should say enough about how well he plays. So what this is, it's a 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this, in the right hand, it's a 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 35-beat ostinato in the hands. It repeats like this. Then in the feet, you solo. So we could do doubles, let's just do paradiddles for the sake of it. You could also do Hertas, made famous by Meshuggah. So therefore, using the feet to solo against the hands, you really create this contrasting melodic effect. Now, something else that I thought, because I cannot do what Ramon does with the push-pull. I am decades away from doing it. So I'm working on it currently, but I am garbo right now. And So what I did was the poor man's version, which was the freehand technique. So freehand technique is where you take stick. I do it between these 3 fingers. These 2 fingers are loose. They're back here like this. You drop the stick off the rim, pull it up. So it's one-handed roll. Johnny Rabb has done it, and a lot of metal drummers we've seen have done it too. So what that did was enable me to get some ostinato phrases like one I did where you are doing essentially freehand strokes in place of single strokes. So rather than you're going. Then you solo in both sides against it. You can also do what I call freehand rudiments, which are basically you're taking a rudiment. So let's say we're taking paradiddle diddle, right, left, left, left. But every stroke of the rudiment becomes a freehand stroke. So you then move them over surfaces to simulate that kind of double effect in the hands. Then you play a solo in your feet against it. And that can, once again, lead to a lot of these different. It also can help if you're doing some textural stuff. You can have some really cool ideas. So there's some very cool ideas there, and that especially can be neat if you're creating a texture, ambiance, etc. So those were a lot of the things that I was working on in prep for this book. Now this book actually, that I'll be the first to admit, there's stuff in there I can't play, especially some of the more complex polyrhythmic material that involves basically phasing limbs out into different time signatures. And by what I mean by that is that one limb should literally be able to play any rate against the others. So let's say we have slant taps in the feet, quarter notes. The left hand will phase into any rhythmic subdivision, septuplets, quintuplets, 13-tuplets, etc. You get the idea. It's a free thing. So you should be freely improvising with the remaining limb. Let's say we're now doing it with the left hand over 2. So that limb can freely go into sort of its own separate space. Now, what this lends itself to is some really interesting polyrhythmic voicings. You therefore can really phrase your limbs into some different feels, time signatures, etc., and therefore really kind of have a lot more freedom within groove ideas, comping ideas, etc. One of the ones that I currently was working on was a variation of the Marco Miniman pattern, where he does a 9 in his feet and then does the rhythm scale in his right side, but he does 3 in his left side. So I wanted to take that and do it with a polyrhythmic 4 in my left. So. Next, this limb will phase in and out of time. Those are variations on quintuplets, septuplets, and then using this to generate a cymbal swell, which is more or less out of time. So a lot of this stuff kind of sounds like a wheelchair falling down a flight of stairs. It's meant merely to be kind of a brain exercise that way, to simply develop awareness between your limbs, especially as we talk about ambidexterity, which is another thing I'm quite passionate about. Now, when it comes to that, a big thing was taking various patterns, let's say, stuff that I was working on. And working them between right and left hand kit. So that became quite a thing when developing these patterns, especially because I wanted this hand. I mean, a lot of people have up-tempo swing in their right. But I wanted be able to comp like that with both hands and different limbs, because you could have this. And therefore, you can also get it. So that was tremendously useful for that, as well as Tobias is here, so I'm going to shout out all the Murder Hands guys, because we did the finger control exercise together, and that was a huge part of me getting my hand technique better and developing the finger control technique, which is kind of one of the primary engines I use to play with a lot of clarity and speed. So the technique comes from holding the stick between these two fingers and powering it with each finger here. So we worked on doing first finger, middle finger, ring finger, and pinky. So we're also utilizing the fulcrum itself. Both hands in unison. Now, what I did was then create an exercise where you go up and down dynamics with each finger. So you could have this. You could really be able to play very quietly, including rudiments. Using the fingers. And what could happen is when one finger gets tired, the power point can just shift to the next. So middle. And so on and so forth. So you can really play like that for a long period of time, including on any surface. So floor tom, snare drum, etc. So you still got a lot of clarity on any one of those surfaces. The last thing I'll say before my friend Ramon comes up and blows people's minds. The second technique I used was my botched version of the Moeller technique, because I didn't understand what it meant when I first heard it. And what that was, the wrist flipping over, generating the accent, and pulling it up after that. But he's really using the rebound of the surface in the wrist and the snap of the fingers to generate the accent. So you get a lot more power that way, and therefore you have a combination of the smoothness of the fingers and then the accent of the wrist. All right, That is my presentation for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. It's a great honor to be here in this school. I dreamed to be here in the past when I start to study drums. I used to ask for his catalog from the drums collective, And when the catalog used to arrive at home, I'm always very happy with this. First of all, sorry about my English. I'm Brazilian. I'm starting to improve a little bit now, but still weak in English. But I think the language of music, you can understand the language of drums. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, people from Drummers Collective. So this book that we share is about, I developed some ideas, a mixing of ideas that I've been developing in my previous book that is called Rhythm Imagination, but it's about coordination. Is my point of view, my version of the studies of Alan Dawson and Gary Chester, transposed to Brazilian rhythms. I developed systems and rhythms and 2-voice rhythms and 3-voice rhythms for 5 of the most famous Brazilian rhythms: samba, baião, maracatu, ijexá, and frevo. And this last December, I launched my third book. First is this bass and drums for Brazilian rhythm session. The second one was this about coordination, and the last one, my last one, was called Rhythm Imagination, but about push-pull. My last one for sure is with Alex. But on this book with Alex, I try to mix concepts from my previous books about coordination and using some push-pull ideas, some slide technique ideas and dual grip. I will share all of this, and please feel comfortable to ask whatever you want. I'm here to clean it. And so I've been developing push-pull for 23 years this year. I started in the year 2000, and when I started, I didn't know the name of this, but for me, I developed my concept of push-pull from open-close, that technique that, of course, you know of, that you take advantage of the rebound of the drumstick, but keeping your hands open. But with push-pull, I realized before I used push-pull, I used to play samba, medium to fast sambas, locking drumsticks here in my hand and using more about my wrist. I used to play like this before I start to understand and try to develop the push-pull. After I realized that from open-close, I saw that if I could play this with a short action and keeping all the fingers in contact every note with the drumstick, I could be able to play faster 60 notes and applying on that styles of samba, medium to fast. I started because of this, thinking and trying to play medium to fast sambas. So my point of view about this technique, my grip is, I don't play French, I don't play German grip neither. I play more American, as we call American grip, in the middle, and keeping the basic fulcrum here, but with all the fingers in contact all the time. There's a natural rotation with the drumstick. In the drumstick itself, there's a round form, and it's natural that drumstick rounds a little bit. But I think it's hard, and in the beginning, it's harder than when you achieve some capacity of playing this, that you have to keep straight 60 notes, because it's very normal with my students when they came to me and say, Ramon, I'm playing push-pull and doing this dotted notes. I think that one of the secrets and one of the bases and basic emotions is try to play this in a very slow way, but very straight. That without accents. This is the idea. I think normally use your thumb to push drumstick. You can play push pull like this without too much finger control. But if you don't use your fingers, you lose the capacity of control barely the drumstick. So I think it's very important to keep this contact, all the notes. And the beginning is a little bit hard to control the perfect motion. I call push note when you push the drumstick and the tip touch the surface and lift it up, and pull when you pull and touch and came to the primary position. And tap note is one thing that I will talk a little bit later. So the idea is to feel comfortable with this. It's a completely different motion that we used to play, because we almost always playing this with fingers or with wrist. So this is a type of different movements for the drumstick. But I think if you use this with musicality, it could be very interesting, very musical, and very applicable. Not just in Brazilian rhythms. I will show some a little bit later, but mainly in Brazilian rhythms, because Brazilian rhythms are most based on 16 notes. When you think about samba, baião, maracatu, there's a bunch of rhythms that we used to play with 16 notes. So because of this 16 notes, I started to develop this, and I think it's very interesting, and a very interesting way to think. After you achieve this capacity of playing, this skill of playing very straight, the next step I think is start to play accents and shifting between the 16 notes. And you have all the 15, 16 possibilities of subdivisions into the quaternary subdivisions, if you can say this. But you can think, of course, in triplets too, the same in triplet subdivisions. So after this, I think I started to think about accentuations for playing a rhythm that we call teleco-teco. Teleco-teco is the tamborim pattern. It's the popular way of saying is teleco-teco. That the onomatopoeic way of saying teco-teco, teleco-teco, teleco-teco. I don't know if you know this instrument. Of course, it's a great drum school here, and and the idea of this is for developing these accentuations. I had to try and practice this accent, and then try to feel comfortable with this, improvise a little bit. So after this, it's very natural for us drummers when we start to understand something. We saw why not don't use this other technique, this different rudiment, and I started to develop this and start to doubling some notes, for example. Yes, in the same way with my left. And this was very important for, because I think if you have develop a technique but don't use it with musicality, in my point of view, of course, there's not the only true, but for me, we have to use technique as musical tools, but trying to put some balance, some feeling, some different movements into the 16 notes or triples or 16s. And because of this, I start to play, try to develop this. This was my just not with some month. It took maybe 4 5 years. This year is 23 years that I've been practicing this, but now I'm feeling more comfortable. But in the beginning, without too much reference or some books about this, I had to try to develop in my own way. I didn't know about Jojo Meyer when I started. I know that Jojo Meyer used some push-pull or something more close to the.
Can someone ask a question?
Yeah, that's great, Steve. It's an honor to be play with you.
Steve
Play
Lemon,
to you.
everybody.
Yeah.
I want to chop off your hand.
No, please.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
So I really
Keep going.
like when you put those accents. That just really hit a light bulb for me. It's just so clear. So when you're doubling the notes, is the double based on a throw mechanic, or are you doubling the rate in which the fingers move? And then the other question is how do you adopt this towards traditional rhythm?
Okay. And about the first question is, yes, there are some different ways of thinking about this. Those that are showed first are always doubling. Always, I call single push-pull strokes, if I can say this name, because there's. No. I'm always doubling, but there are some possibilities. For example, I've been using some articulation that I will start to talk about right now. That's some 3-note articulations or 4-note articulations. That, for example, it's my personal view and personal way of thinking about this. That down tap up, but into the hand. And there are 6 different possibilities of this 3-note articulation that have been developed in the book. I will talk about this, for example, this push, tap, pull. This step between the push and the pull note is open. Push, tap, pull. So. But there's a different one. There's a different one that is, for example, push, pull, tap. This tap I used to play with my hands closed, with the fingers, with the hand closed. So, and there's another one, for example, pull, push, tap, pull, push, tap. This 3rd note that is a tap is with the open hand. And there's another one that's push, tap, pull. Pull, tap, push. It's a little bit tricky for Brazilians to push, tap, pull. So I developed 6 different 3-note articulations in the book, and 4-note articulations. For example, push, tap, pull, tap is a combination, 4-note combination note. I mix some tap notes between the push and pull notes. And there's another one that pull, tap, push, tap. I just reverse and start with tap, start with push. And this, I think, I tried this because thinking on 2 hands, on a normal way of thinking, you can play all the stuff, just play single strokes. But when you put some tap nodes or some paradiddles or some different combination, it becomes more music, I think. So due to this, I started to, and even for when I'm playing a medium to fast samba, I can start to improvise a little bit and putting the accents in a different 16 note. And of course, mixing different rhythm figures. I'm trying to thank you. Trying to play all the stuff that we are playing during the years into this with each hand. And another thing is I'm sorry, I just answered. I don't play traditional just for brushes, maybe. But I'm trying to develop this, but it will take many times. And I always been playing with. I've been playing with matched for a long time. Okay, thank you, Steve. And so these articulations I think are very interesting. But one thing is practice just with one hand on the pad or two hands. When you start to play with two hands, if you want to keep single push-pull on one left hand and put some articulation, it's totally another, it's a whole new world of coordination that you have to develop. And when you go to the drum set, it's even more possibilities. Your brains start to be a little bit divided and split with. You have to keep this and have to practice this at a certain time. So this was about push-pull. If I have just one more question, I will talk a little bit about slide and about dual grip, and we'll show these techniques on drum set, showing that is applicable, is could be musical. Okay? Okay. Yes, please. Yes, have to.
Hi, Ramon. I've seen drummers, Brazilian drummers, play kind of samba real fast, kind of like that Ringo Starr kind of motion that
Yes,
I don't know what it is exactly, but it seems like the wrist is moving. I don't know. What is the technique that...
Yeah, this is the other technique that we'll start to talk about right now. But it's normal to see in Brazil. Not every drummer, but some drummers play something like this using for samba. But there are some, for example, a great guy older than me, that's called Jorginho Saavedra. He's older than me, maybe on the 60s. And he used to play for a long time playing medium to samba for fast sambas. Always this challenging stuff. But put the index finger on the drumstick. But I think he plays a little bit more straight. Another guy over there is called Douglas Alonso, that used to be just a percussion player, a great pandeiro player, but he started to play drums and adapted this a little bit. I don't know for sure how he does it, but it's something like that came from pandeiro to him.
I was going to say,
he developed from pandeiro technique that is, because he plays pandeiro a lot and he started to develop. My way of view, my point of view about this technique is that I've been playing with a band that play for a long time that use reco-reco. Reco is a guiro, a type of guiro or guira. There's some different types of reco-recos over there. I'm playing one made by wood with some cuts that very similar than guiro, the Latin guiro, but or cylindrum, a type of cylindrum that I put here in my set. Always using this, and I realized that I could use this as another technique, another drum tool, in the same way of that push-pull. So I try to develop in the same way of push-pull. I put this. With this grip, I don't lock. It's a little bit relaxed than with push-pull, but I still keeping the fingers all the fingers in contact. But I don't play like this, locking and doing this. I leave the drumstick a little bit relaxed, and the motion is more or less about this. There's this motion, more or less maybe 13, 15 degrees from the surface, from the drum head. We have to find a point and start to practice this too. And it could be applied, but not just in samba. So in the same way, I started to use some rhythm, some doubling the notes, some rhythms. And some tap notes the same way. Instead of doing push, tap, pull, push, tap, I've been doing right, tap, left. Or thinking on 16ths. Or right tap, left tap. Even the flam, I've been doing some flam with the, and I've been doing the same idea of flam using this technique. And this okay, understood the idea. This is, I think there it's normal to see some drummers all over the world using this because this is natural, this is organic. If you see, I can play this or play like this, but it's a matter of practicing and trying to develop this and use all the hand techniques and use some concepts of the traditional hand techniques and apply with this. That's what I'm doing, that with push-pull, with slide. And another one is what I call dual grip. I started to play this dual grip. I call dual grip. I will show you and why I will show why I use the name dual grip for you. But I started using this. I think Keiko Abe is a marimba player. I love marimba player. I used to play marimba like this. I never play marimba. I studied in the graduation on the university, just with one drumstick in each hand and trying to find the notes, but just for not so long, for a little time. But I use this for beginning in wedding ceremonies with the mallet, for doing crescendos with these mallet drumsticks on the cymbals. But I've been developing a different concepts about this, that I start to use this, but sometimes I realized that I could lock drumsticks here in the beginning on this way and try to play to comping on na samba. I think I will show over there, and the drums could be more interesting. Excuse me. So I start to use this as for rolls. But after some time, I realized that I could put lock drumsticks here with the pinky and the ring fingers. And because I used to play with a Brazilian singer, me and Douglas Alonso, that great percussion. But I used to play some percussions and he just percussion. But if you know what a batucada or a Brazilian samba is, you will know that when you play with a percussion player, there's pretty much more feel the space, more hard, and from certain point to forward, the producer came to me and say, "But then we don't have budget for the percussion. Play all the stuffs just yourself." Okay, let's try. And I thought, I've been playing with some percussion, cajon, and play pandeiro, but I try to put more pressure on the comping, on the samba comping. So I tried this technique. I realized that worked. I tried this in a show with a musical director on the stage. And when I start to put this, I noticed that he looked at me and I looked at him. Okay, keep going. So I was approved. I started to use this. After this, I realized that I could put some flammy sound, because when you listen to the batucadas with 3 or 4 percussion players with the drums in the Brazilian rhythm section, there's some flammy sounds, not exactly on the grid, the same point, all the percussion. They used to play with sometimes between the triples, between the 16ths, there's this motion, not exactly at the same time. So I try to, from this point to forward, I separate the grip like this. The first drumstick with the index and thumb, and the other with the other 3 fingers. And put some angle. So I tried again on the stage with the musical director looking to me. And I think it worked. I looked to the guy and I said, okay, keep going. And I was approved again. But I realized in the next show, or I don't remember it was in the same show, in another show. I thought, why not, again the question, why not choose some notes to play the flams, not all the notes. So I start to lead with this and choose some notes to produce the flam sound. Sometimes I play all the time, sometimes just simultaneously, and sometimes again, thank you. I just look at with the eye to the musical director and say, okay, keep doing this. Don't ask me anymore. So I thought, why not using push-pull? Still use push-pull in this with all the stuffs. So I try first with the both drumsticks. But I thought, why not play push-pull with this thumb and index and keep doing some flams with the other drumstick. So I tried. Okay, I was was turning it into a musical way. And I thought again, why not using slide that I already developed some time ago. So I try. So simultaneously, choosing some notes. Push pull with bows. And push pull with the left drumstick. Slide. And I thought again, why not keep playing slide, but with the second one and try to reverse the grip. So I tried. I thought some time ago I tried, and I was giving a little look to the guy, and okay, keep going. So I started to change the leading drumstick and use a different grips at the same time and feeling more comfortable with this. At this point, I started to call this dual grip because it's more than two grips, but I think dual grip could be the left to right and right to left, and use the grip for push pull, the same for slide. So because of this, I started to call this dual grip, and I've been trying to develop in a different way. I ask myself, why not try different drumsticks? So I use this that's used for playing rhythmic or tambourines made by nylon. I started to separate and went back to that primary grip. And for example, could sound very interesting if you mix different drumsticks or brushes or another one with a type of rods. Even playing at the same time sounds very interesting. For playing tambourine, for example, we used to play tambourine together with the drums. For example, you can keep the 16 notes with this grip. So it's been very useful in my concept, my way of thinking about drums, and I think this techniques could be very useful, but it depends on you what type of styles do you use. Of course, I never play some rock, but there's no sense to use this technique for maybe a loudly style, for example, rock, or if I have to play some soft, something more pop but soft. Some drum bass or even some jazz. Forgive me. some specific things for soloing, for phrasing. So this was about that I've been playing to talk. Okay, I will play one more and feel comfortable to ask if you want. Okay. I will play this song that is a 5/4 beat samba that in Brazil is renowned as a jequibal. Jequibal is the name of some guys, some people call the 5/4 beat samba. Okay. The first track in this one are part of my last CD that's called Moldura dos Pés. These are on Spot. You can find on Spotify easily. Okay, let's go. So this was a jequibal, 5/4 beats, and I tried to apply all the stuffs together.
Anybody have any questions for either of us? Paul?
Question for Ramon, actually, and this,
Hi.
I apologize, it has nothing to do with push-pull, but it's a samba question.
Okay.
Just wondering, what is the protocol for when to use the, I guess it's based on the Certo pattern, the boom, boom, boom,
yeah,
boom,
that's based on
when
that.
to use that and when not to? Like, is there sort of like a code to that or any rules stylistically?
No problem. Thanks for coming, Paul. I'm very
Paul
honored
Wells,
with your
everybody.
honored with your presence. Because Brazilian rhythms they were not created directly on the drum set. It came from percussion ensembles, and these low grooves came from first of all came from surdo, from low toning drums, and just here. For example, if you listen to a surdo, there are three types of surdos in thinking on samba schools: surdo de primeira, first surdo, samba de segunda, or samba de terceira, samba de corte, samba de dobra. There are different names for the third surdo, but one surdo plays and the time 1 and 1 2, and the other maybe a lower one play 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, and the third one play improvising a little bit and doing some different rhythms. For example. Sorry. This is double bass. And not just this type of surdo, but when you think on a batucada, it's very often to find in Brazil some tantan. That's a type of one-head drum, a type of cylindrum that the low tones that people play something like the same pattern of surdo, but less low. And the rebolo is another one, a little bit, how can I say? A little than smaller than the other. So the same way I think people think on bass drum, on Latin, on salsa, they don't play always. They just play. Efraim Martinez is a great drummer and teacher from Puerto Rico. Can confirm me. Thanks for coming, Efraim.
Yeah.
So they don't play at the same pattern. They improvise a little bit on the low tones, right? And in the same way in Brazilian, if you go more to the roots, some old drummers used to play. Simplifying, and I think the same way I can when I play samba, I think the best way, not just me, I think the best way to play Brazilian rhythms is know how the other percussion instruments do. So know all the lines that the different percussion instruments play. So knowing this, you can improvise and sometimes play more like a surdo, sometimes play more like a rebolo, or I don't know if you understand what I mean. We don't play always. Of course, if you play some more commercial, more pop, some called pagode, some type of different sambas in Brazil, we used to play more. But it depends on how different the rhythm session is. If you're playing just you have to play a little bit less. more simple, and letting all the different rhythms for the other percussion. Just playing more simple. And if you are alone, you can play a little bit more, for example. Feeling all the space more betterly. But I think that is because Brazilian rhythms were not created on drum set specifically and on the percussion ensembles, and there are some variations into this. Okay, Paul?
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Brad.
What is your
Ask you, could you explain your slide technique, please?
Oh, okay. Yeah, slide. As I told you first, is this. I keep the grip here, but I let the drumstick a little bit freely into my hand. Not so freely, but because I'm always keeping certain type of contact with the drumstick. But it's different than push-pull is more concentrate on the fingers and a little bit of wrist sometimes. But with slide, you have to use this motion and letting the drumstick a little bit free. So the movement, if you take the drumstick, just the drumstick, you see this motion. It's not this. It's more or less about this. And all of that stuff that I've been applying, it's changing a little bit the movement. But the basic movement is this: right, left, or you can start left, right. You can choose. I think the best option is to feel comfortable starting to the right or starting to the left. The same way as we start with some rhythms with our left hands, and sometimes with our right hands. Okay. Thank you.
Tobias.
So, can you guys also talk a little bit about how you guys sort of came together and what are the sort of themes in this book that sort of connect your two different styles, or your thinkings?
Just starting, Alex told me, yeah, let's do a book together. So think on 16, let's simple like this. I proposed it to Robbie Alice and he agreed. And let's do it. Yes,
pretty much
let's
what
do
it was.
it. It's crazy, motherfucker.
I mean, and we tried to get Yodi in.
Yeah.
Yodi went into it.
Yeah,
Yodi was like, no.
Yeah, but we did the book by ourselves. But I tried to mix the concept of my previous book about coordination, some systems and readings, all the exercise. With all the exercise, you can try. There are some system and some readings that you can try with one part of your body or right hand, left hand. But I try to differently than my previous book. I introduced some push-pull slide and dual grip into this craziness. And after this, I think Alex used...
Well, a big part of that too was the idea that, okay, let's say you were to take some of Ramon's techniques, push-pull slide, dual grip, and then put those kind of foot patterns under it. So let's say put rudiments of the feet under it over multiple pedals, using different sound sources. Technically, you could simulate an entire percussion section playing at once. And to me, I'm a big fan of things, having a goal to work towards. I can't play any of his stuff. I'd like to put that out there. But the idea of being able to cross those potentially would give you infinite amounts of work and lifetimes worth of practice within that. So I think that was the goal, was to create something that really could push theoretical boundaries as well as physical boundaries. And therefore, when we collaborated on it, and for those who are interested in the book, we have it out there. We have parts called exercise overlaps, where the concepts are overlap. So, for example, take Ramon's idea and put it over a Shirley Murphy in the feet, or take Ramon's idea and put it over that 9 pattern in the feet, stuff like that. So I think with that, you probably have 2 lifetimes worth of work at least for me, because I am garbage at what you just saw him play. So, yeah. Any others?
We got time for one more question.
Okay, one more.
Y'all, what was your favorite thing about putting this book together? Like what? And hang on, wait, hold on. What was your favorite thing, and what was the most difficult thing?
Favorite part was Zoom calls with Yoni and Ramon, because it's a party with the 3 of us.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's always a great time. So they're 2 of my really close friends. So that was a great part that we all really, him and I especially, but the 3 of us I think really came together on that, and the process was great, and just the response too has been amazing.
Yeah, it's for sure. The same to me. It's challenging to create different things and mix all the coordinations with these techniques. I don't lost the reference to trying to be musical, but I can't forget this. For me, talking about myself, I'm always trying to put some weird things, but don't losing the point of being musical and being applicable. So that's what was the goal. Thank you.
It's been one of the better experiences I've had in a long time working on this, seeing people's reactions to it, and just the process of how much I've learned and grown as a musician through it, being inspired by seeing things that I cannot do and probably never could do. So, I think that's the beauty part, one of my favorite things.